Hey, brother. What's going on, brother
How you
Steven?
doing?
Doing amazing, brother. Great to see you.
You as well. How is my quality? Is everything good? I've never done this before.
Yeah, everything's good on my side. I can see you clearly. I can hear you clearly.
Cool.
Yeah. How's your day been flowing?
Pretty good. I live up in the mountains, so I do batch juicing for this juice fast where I'll make it for like 2 or 3 days at a time. So I was just doing that for a few hours this morning, getting that all ready to go for the next few days.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you sound like, you sound very confident. Like this is just something that, you regularly do. Is this like a new juice journey, or is this something that you've just kind of adopted or adapted?
Um, well, I've never went this far before. Like I said, at the beginning of the year, I did something a little crazy. I've been doing a lot of juice fasting, but not like long ones. I did like a 25-day one a few years ago. But at the beginning of the year, I just wanted a fresh start. I shaved my head, I shaved my beard, and I started juice fasting. And I've uh, I've maintained it since. And I've done a little bit of tweaks as far as like how much I drink now, how much I was at the beginning. But yeah, I just wanted a good reset. I've been wanting to do a long juice fast for quite some time, but it's just been a lot of like small 5 to 8 day juice fasts. Like I said, I did the 24-day one back in 2021, but just been kind of trying to prep the body for something like this, and now I'm just more than ready. And yeah, I've just been trying to keep myself prepped with juice and stuff like that to make sure I stay on path because I would like to go 107 days. That's my plan right now. Um,
Wow. And that's a pretty specific number, 107. So 107 days. Where did you get that number?
over the years, I've been getting into numerology and astrology,
Mhm.
and my life path number is 7. And I've just been seeing it my whole life, and 17 specifically, I mean, I could probably get into a side tangent about those numbers for like a very long time as far as like what they have done for me. But a few years ago, I decided to go plant based about 4.5 years ago.
Okay.
And that just happened to be on the 17th. And many other things I was just doing just happened to be on that day. Um, to where now it just doesn't feel like much of a coincidence, if that makes any sense. So if I do 107 days, it will also be ending on April 17th. So I just felt like that was just like such a coincidence as well that I feel like I should just end it on that day if I feel it's best.
Okay. Okay. And you said also as well, Stephen, you said you shaved your head and you
Mhm.
said what?
Shave my beard.
Yeah. So you shaved your head and your beard. I know people usually cut their hair or shave their hair when they're making room for new energy. I remember, one of my good friends, and his name was Evan. Back in college, we used to know my friend Evan. He had this huge afro, like
Uh-huh.
huge, big afro. Everybody knew him. He always had a pick in his hair, pick in his fro. And one day he came and he was completely shaved, like it was completely cut. And everybody was like, "What happened? Like what did you do? Why? And he said,
Yeah.
I never forget what he told us, Stephen. He said, I had to make room for new wisdom, you know? I
Wow.
had to make room for new energy. So can you talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess what initially motivated me, and I'm sure many other people have seen this as well, but I ran across some documentary on YouTube called, I believe it's like Faster, the Healer Within.
Hmm.
And it was two brothers. One of the brothers had like some sort of knee injury or something like that, so that was why he was doing it. And basically, his other brother just joined him, just to be there with him. And they did 20 days of water and then 20 days of juice.
Hmm.
And that was something that they both did. They shaved their head right at the beginning of the fast, and I don't know, it just seemed to resonate when I heard it. And you know, like I said, I've been wanting to do a long fast for quite some time. I just feel like I was at a point for so long where like my mind was somewhere and my body wasn't, because like I said, I've only been on this plant-based journey for almost 5 years now. In July it'll be 5 years. But but yeah, I was just ready to do this, and I wanted to just do everything I could, like to get new, to get rid of the old, start with the new, because I did have hair pretty long. It was like down to here. My beard was starting to get pretty long and thick, and it was just like a something to get used to for sure. But I just wanted to do every little step I could that would keep me accountable to continue doing this, because I've been following people like yourself for a while, people like Taylor Budd and a lot of other people who have been on this journey, and I've been on it myself. And I just started to realize every time I would break the fast, it would never be out of hunger. It would always just want me wanting to be more stimulated, and it was just like starting to get to me, like not that I was like beating myself up for breaking it, but just also like something in the back of my head, like this voice just kept telling me like there's something deeper here and you're not allowing yourself to figure that out. But, just keep doing that. So all of 2024, I fasted 10 to 15 days every month.
Okay.
I was very disciplined on that. It wasn't like long fast. It was just like 2 to 3 days at a time. And I would accumulate to about 10 to 15 days every month that I would do that. I did the same thing in 2023 as well. And, like I said earlier, I just was at this point where my body wasn't ready for this long fast just yet over these years. I feel like my mind was, because I was seeing all the information out there and the way I could feel the way I could still like hike up a mountain, 10, 15 miles fasted and stuff, like do all these things when I was fasted. I was just like, it just got to the point where I started to realize I was very addicted to food, and that was the root of why I kept going back. And of course, I've started to refine it a lot. I'm basically like all raw when I do eat and stuff. Although I kept breaking the fast, I was getting to the point where I just wanted to keep refining my diet and starting to eat more for nourishment and not taste, by cutting out the oils and the salts and
Right.
just trying to eat raw and figure out what I actually liked raw. And yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a lot of self reflection. I've had a lot of trauma in my life, so I've always just kind of resorted to other forms of stimulation, whether it be cannabis or food or something like that, to like run away from my problems, basically. But when 2025 started, I was just ready to face it all head on.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. Just a clean slate, just to face it and embrace it, since you can't erase it.
That
There's
was perfect. Yeah, you said that better than I could.
nah, nah. Nah, man, just that's definitely very relatable, brother. Stephen, I can definitely resonate with you on many levels when it comes to moving away from so many levels of stimulation and stagnation, and even lower vibration when it comes to just what we consume on the daily. So you
Right.
mentioned, that it's been 5 years that you've been plant-based living.
Hmm.
When it comes to food addiction, like you mentioned, food addiction, what was your style of living, or yeah, your lifestyle, your style of living before you turned plant-based? What were you kind of steeped in back then? What were some of the main forms of consumption that you usually were taking?
Oh man, that's. I'll try to make this short because, as you see, I keep going on these little side tangents. But I could get into that forever. I grew up on a very unhealthy diet. Unfortunately, I was never breastfed or anything like that as well, which I never even realized that was so much of an issue until I guess later down the line, as far as like I guess trauma and stuff like that with everything else in life. But a lot of McDonald's, a lot of frozen
Yeah.
pizzas, and I mean, I was raised to where when you got McDonald's, you asked for extra salt packets and you put salt on top of it. And I mean, it got bad, over the years, I would kind of get sick of McDonald's and just go eat like Papa John's and stuff. It never really got good. But what caught my attention to begin with was my roommate got into the Dr. Sebi diet a few years ago.
Mm.
And that was how I started my transition, which I believe for me, for where I was at, as far as all those things that I was eating and just the level of stimulation I was used to, I was smoking a lot of cannabis,
Mhm.
and it was just like my regular thing. That was my normal. I was just high all day. Um, but the Dr. Sebi diet was huge for me. I'll always remember it was if we go back a little bit, it was on a 17th day. It was July 17th, 2020. I ate an entire pizza. You know, it was a medium pizza. It wasn't like an extra large pizza, but I ate the whole thing. I didn't feel my greatest, and I was just like, something's got to change. So I just I anticipated on just trying the Dr. Sebi diet for 30 days, and you know, I was still having a lot of sautéed mushrooms and trying a lot of the walnut meats, and you know, it was still very stimulating, very satisfying, and just right away, I was a lot more chubbier then. I kind of lost all that right away. Got a 6 pack right away. It was my mental clarity and energy just was through the roof, and my metabolism in my body was definitely at this point where like I my body was just so used to just shedding and shedding and just working and working and just trying to get the food down. So by like my first 2 or 3 months, I was like skinnier than I am now, eating like 2 meals a day, you know, quinoa, mushrooms, and all these different things. So my body over the years has adjusted very well. But that was the start of it. I don't want to get on too many more side tangents because I'll just go on forever. But yeah, it was really bad diet to start,
Hmm.
and then the Dr. Sebi diet was my first transition.
Okay. No, this is perfect. You know, this is really great. I love, just learning about your backstory because, like I said, it's very relatable. It's very resonant with me. I mean, I was raised on all the fast food as well. You know, the Mickey D's, the double cheese, the Papa John's, like all that stuff, like the Domino's, the Pizza Hut, the wings, all of the things. And, even at Popeyes, like you said, with the salt on the salt. I needed hot sauce on my hot sauce.
Yeah.
I was having so much extra vinegar and hot sauce and Louisiana and Texas Pete, and it was never enough. It was never enough condiments. It was never enough ketchup. It was never enough, Parmesan garlic. It was never enough ranch dressing. It was never enough. It was never enough.
Yeah.
So I mean, for me, I didn't know that it was a problem until it was a problem. Yeah, you know what I mean? I didn't realize the problem until it was a problem. So, for yourself, what were some of the things that, if you can divulge, like, were there like big bouts of like constipation? Was there indigestion, diarrhea, like all of those symptoms? Did you have all of those as well?
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't, you know, like I said, I didn't have a chronic illness, at least to my knowledge. It was just more of just I was pretty chubby, my energy levels were low, and of course, me smoking so much cannabis was a big corporate with that as well. But yeah, just really it. I thought just like having constipation and having like bowel movements that weren't comfortable. Like I thought all this was normal. You know, I'm 28 now, so I did this for 24 years. You know,
Wow. Wow.
24 years. I'm about to be 29 here soon.
Yeah.
24 years. This was like my normal. I did not think anything different. You know, I was drinking a couple Mountain Dews every day for a while. Um, for probably like 20 years. You know, that was just all sodas in the mix of that too. So I thought all this was normal, but
Mhm.
yes, the same symptoms that you had, basically just some acne here and there and stuff that I
Mhm.
could never really get rid of. I never had it so bad, but I would always have some.
Yeah.
And I would always just like think I needed face wash and stuff like that, and thinking that face wash was always the answer. It would like I basically try to find a face wash that would dry my face out so much to where I could only have like a couple pimples and stuff. But yeah, just the basic things that I thought was normal that I had to step away from to realize like, wow, you know, I also stopped getting sick. You know, I thought it was normal to get sick every
Right.
year. Now I haven't been sick in over 5 years, and it's like it's just
Yeah.
crazy. Um,
Yeah.
Fortunately, I stopped getting sick after I stopped eating so much.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily plant based, and I do think I could have potentially still been getting sick, but like probably about my first year before I went plant based, I just stopped eating so much food. I would just eat like one meal at Chick-fil-A instead of three,
Right.
or, you know, whatever. To where I noticed I stopped getting sick a little bit before I started going plant based, but now I just haven't been sick since. And that was another thing. I just thought it was normal. I just thought it was normal to get sick every year, a lot of times 2 or 3 times a year. And yeah, just
Yeah.
a big eye-opening journey of just getting away from that stuff.
Huge eye opener, huge. That's a revelation.
Yeah.
Like that's definitely a revelation, brother Stephen, because for myself as well, like I always needed that extra burrito at Chipotle, or the extra order of chicken at Popeyes, like the extra. I was always there for the deals,
Yeah.
right? The steals and the deals, right? Right. Put it on wheels, right? You know how that feels.
Yeah.
It was
Damn, you're
like,
rhyming right
what
now.
was it? The two for Tuesdays. There were two-piece Tuesdays at Popeye, so I would get like 4 orders of two-piece Tuesdays. So that's like 8 pieces of chicken. 4 orders of chicken, like eight pieces just all to myself, or a whole rotisserie all to myself, or a whole 2-pound bag of wings all to myself. So when one of my mentors said, he said, "He who eats less lives longer." And I said, huh, you know? And he didn't necessarily say like he who eats best lives longer. He said he who eats less lives longer. And I was like, huh, like eating less, just reducing, the quantity, and just really reducing it, just bringing it down to a level that's sane. I think we've just really gotten comfortable with the insanity of the insatiable amounts of consumption that we're able to put away. I mean, I'm 6'3". I don't know how tall you are.
6 foot.
So yeah, so I was able to put away quite a bit,
Yeah.
and I mean, I almost envy you, brother. I'm jealous because, bro, you started at 24. I started at 28. So
Oh
you
man.
already have 4 years on me.
Man.
4 years. I'm 34 now. So, I mean, I wish I started it way sooner than I did. But that's amazing that you've already started now and you're still so young, you know?
Thank you. Thank you. And I feel the same way how you said that, how like I have a friend who's like starting this at 20, and I feel the same way. I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have started then, because like what I've already been able to do the past 4.5 years, like you're gonna get done by the time you're when I started. And it's like it is, I think, like we're just ready when the time's right. I do believe in fate and things like that, and I do believe that some people just aren't ready for certain things. I've been with a lot of friends and family, I've been trying to find a way of talking about these things in a much more gentle way and things like that. Of course, when I'm with like more people where I can resonate more, I like to just have no filter, but I've been trying to help a lot of my friends and family more, just be more aware of what they're putting in their body, and not trying to be like, do what I'm doing, but just like, just having that, thinking about it. I have a lot of friends that I'll just try to be a little subtle, when they've already had 2 or 3 meals in a day and it's like 11 at night and they're going for a meal and they're like, I'm hungry. And I'm like, do you really think you're hungry though? And I'll try to, and I'll probably be even more gentle about that. I find good ways of doing it now. But yeah, it's just been so eye opening. And of course, when I first went plant based, like how some others were, I was just like that vegan preachy guy. It was just like, I feel so amazing, do what I'm doing. And I think there's always something to that too, but just finding a balance where people aren't like annoyed at being around that, because I feel like a lot of us on this journey, maybe not you specifically, but a lot of people have been there where they start to preach more about their lifestyle, and then to family and friends, they're just kind of like, dude, leave me alone,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. No, it's true. It's that's definitely a level of maturity that you've reached because, when we're going around preaching or we're trying to be teaching or we're trying to be reaching everyone around us, it's not always received,
Exactly.
because that's not what they believe,
Right.
that's not what they perceive. So if they don't perceive it, if they don't believe it, then they don't always receive it with the kindest of intentions. So it's better a lot of times that I've found to just embody your truth, just to live your own truth,
Live by
just to walk your
example.
own, yeah, walk your own path, walk your own journey. And then somebody usually they might come around and ask when they see you just embodying and walking your path,
Yeah.
so it's awesome just to be that and just to see that and to get that feedback, like
Yeah.
to realize that you don't have to speaks so much. Your energy actually speaks for itself. And I mean, it shows up just in your own state of health. You're already speaking for yourself. Like your testimony is already in the test. You know, that is your testimony. The mess that you cleaned up, that is the message, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, you're really smooth with your words. I'm not gonna lie, I don't get on Instagram much. I followed you years ago, and the past year or two, I've just been staying off Instagram. I'll keep it off my phone and maybe download it for like an hour or two and just catch up with people and to catch up on like what people like yourself and other people are doing in their journey. But yeah, man, you're really good with your words.
Man, appreciate you,
Of
brother. I appreciate you.
course.
And Stephen, you mentioned as well when it came to working with cannabis,
Mhm.
when it came to cannabis, like I only spent a little bit of time with it in my adolescence, but I spent more time with like psychedelics, things like LSD and psilocybin.
Mhm.
But why do you feel like cannabis kind of had a hold on you for so long? What do you feel like was the main point of gravitation or the state of attraction? What made it so seductive?
I love how you asked that question because I could just transition to it perfectly. It was the LSD and the psilocybin that I started to get into that got me off of the cannabis. Really,
Mm.
I started to once I moved out here to California. I grew up in Maryland, like right outside of Baltimore, so it was a different life. And once I moved out here in the mountains, I was able to get access to these things, and that's where I was using it just like cannabis at first, just using it to get high, not really knowing much about it at all. But then I just started to realize that it was allowing me to feel. I was able to feel much more, and I was just so numbed out from so much cannabis and the food, to where it just got to the point where I just wanted to like
Keep
I really
keep
like to
talking.
feel.
Keep
You're good.
talking. Keep talking. I'll be right back. Keep talking.
Okay. But yeah, I just wanted to keep feeling more. And then once I started to have more feelings, that's when I started to push away from the cannabis. And then the psychedelics as a whole now, that's just something that like I just have to respect so deeply because of what they've done for me, to where that's even, hard enough to do often at all. I haven't done any in a few months, and I don't know if I will. I mean, I'm open to it, but I've just gained so much from it. Said all the hippies in Cali. Yeah, yeah. I was not a hippie before, and I can remember talking to some friends before I moved here. They were like laughing, like you're gonna become a hippie," and I was like laughing about it, and then just full on became a hippie. It was funny, but I love it honestly. I wouldn't take it for anything. Let's see what else people are saying. Been there, it's a challenge. Yeah, this whole journey is a challenge. It's just like facing yourself. You are just forced to. Um, but that's what's beautiful about it. There's so much healing that can happen by just facing yourself. What's your advice on starting a juice fast? Start slow. Do what's best for you. Focus on hydration. I would focus, depending on where you're at as far as diet, I would focus on, me personally, I would focus on like a juice feast and just focus on hydration. Focus on feeling your best during it and flushing out the body. Um, Hi, Stephen. Do you still eat cooked food often? So in 2024, I really decided to try to step away from it as much as possible. I will still have things like hummus and things like that. I've just been reading the comments, trying to kill some time. But yeah, I haven't been eating much cooked food. I've been very disciplined on that all of 2024, and I feel like that helped me for this juice fast.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for answering the question. Sorry, somebody was at my door.
No, don't worry
Let me see.
about it. I was trying to just keep people there and just,
Yeah.
just read the comments, try to answer some things. It's all good.
Yes. So you answered on starting a juice fast. You said start slowly.
Yeah, yeah. So what I was saying was just start slowly. I said I didn't want to speak for you as far as what you recommend, but for me, I just recommend starting slowly, and if possible, depending on what diet you're coming from, doing like a juice feast, really. Focused on hydrating the body, flushing out the bowels. I don't know how much you would like to get onto full detail of this, but I'm on day 63 and I'm still letting out old things. So it's a journey, and this time what I've been doing is, as much as, once again, it's gross. I don't know how much you want to talk about all of this side of things.
Talk about it.
Okay.
Talk about it, because this is what people are, wondering. I mean, when it comes to things like parasitic organisms, mucoid plaque,
Hmm.
and uneliminated waste matter, like people are finally waking up to this realization and finally realizing that this stuff has been hiding in our bowels. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to make sure first. I didn't want to talk about things on your platform
You're
that maybe you
good.
didn't want to talk about.
All good.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I've actually been documenting it this time, as much as I'm like very disgusted to document it with like pictures and stuff and videos. I'm at this point, for years of like on and off fasting, and you know eating a what I would assume a clean diet, and a lot of times eating one meal a day for a lot of time too. Like, I'm more grossed out that it's still in me. And yeah, a lot of thick plaque, a lot of biofilm, and I mean a lot of it. Like, I've only lost 25 pounds the past 63 days, and like, at least it's so hard to put a number to these weights, because I'm hydrating the plaque. So who knows how much it actually weighs before I hydrate it, but it had to have been at least 15 pounds of this has been at least the plaque and the biofilm. And it's just the way you feel when it's out. You're so euphoric, and like, um yeah, at this point, just the smells and the color, it just gets to the point where like I'm more grossed out that it was still in me. So now I'm just like, I'm in this headspace now where anything I'm facing, any sort of crazy dreams I'm having, any sort of childhood trauma that I'm facing right now, I'm just like speaking to myself, like, give it to me head on. I'm ready to face all of this, even if I need to not go to sleep, if I need to stay up for a few days straight, or, which luckily I haven't dealt with too much of that. But just little things, yeah, like it's crazy how backed up we are. And it's like, I want to say I knew this for how much I've been researching this over the years and seeing people talk about it. I didn't know it until I am going through it now. But I mean, I have not done any psyllium husk or clay at all. So I just want to put that out there, so anyone that's in the comments, or maybe yourself, who's seen the research of people doing this, I have seen a lot of people on these cleanses doing the husks and the clay. Not that I have anything against that, but I wanted to see what I was letting out that was just the plaque and not the husk and the clay, and it's still been just a ridiculous amount. And that was with me. I fasted 130 days last year. I fasted at least another 100 days the year before. I ate basically one meal a day those 2 years as well. Like, I wasn't, and my bowel movements were great. Like, I was digesting well all throughout this. So if anyone's questioning it, it's still in us for sure. Unless you've done something like this, it is in us. If you ate a diet like me and Jerome, I would say it definitely has got to be still in you. And it's sad, it's unfortunate, and this is really tough. But at the
Hmm.
same time, man, I've gotten so many good things coming out of this. Like, my mental clarity at times is just through the roof.
Exactly.
Like, my energy levels, like just yesterday, I went to the gym and ran 4 miles straight and sat in the sauna for 45 minutes.
There you go.
And I'm still dry fasting like 12 to 15 hours every day. Like, just to give people an idea of when you start to clean out the body more, what you're capable of. There are times where I had a lot of times, and I'm sure you had as well, where like I'm standing up and my head's just spinning and stuff,
Hmm.
like a few years ago when I would
Hmm.
start. But all that went away. You just got to start to treat the body better and start putting in better fuel and go through the rough detox. And then it gets incredible. It's like you can't compare it to anything else at this point, like,
No, it just feels like complete sobriety,
to
like
the
you're
fullest.
you're sober from like, I mean, from being drugged for so long. You really feel the influence of the substance after you've been away from it for so long. And then if you reintroduce it back into your body, like somebody said, go without something for 90 days, like 3 months without something. And then if you reintroduce it back into your system and feel the effects, like feel what it does to your system, that's what it's actually doing. Like that's what's
Yeah.
actually happening, but we're too numbed and desensitized to actually realize the effects that it's having on us until we have the contrast, you know, until we do the 180 and we see, oh, that's what's actually going on. And I mean, it takes a lot of forgiveness, a lot of compassion, a lot of acknowledgement,
Hmm.
and just a lot of empathy for yourself. You know, self-love, self-care is not selfish. You know, like they say, you know, what you do for yourself and what you do for your health, you know, not only benefits you but everyone else. You know, you're filling your cup, and people can feel that energy when you reveal that energy and when you heal that energy on a deep level. Because man, you know, Stephen, when you're talking about this stuff coming out, like I remember hearing stories and not just seeing these videos of my friends and, you know, like these people that I know personally getting this stuff out of their bodies. But, you know, you see somebody that says she knows for a fact that this hardened, you know, crystallized, concretized, solidified, uneliminated waste was stuck in her, you know, in her body for like over 2 decades. She said, I know it's been in there for 20 years because something that I was taking medication for 20 years ago, those symptoms went away when it came out of my body. Like
Yeah.
when it eliminated from her body, when she saw the plaque come out, she no longer, like that symptom she was taking the medication for was gone. And then, you know, the cravings, the desire, the pull for all that greasy, the fatty,
Hmm.
the salty, like all that stuff is gone. You feel like you have a new body. Like you are born again. Like he is risen. You've been resurrected. You
Yeah.
know? Like your vessel is you're a different person. You are not the same. So it's tough. It's really tough for people to understand this. And yeah, thank you for clarifying that as well, Stephen, about it not being the psyllium husk and it not being the bentonite clay, that these
Yeah.
are methods and modalities that people use to, you know, pick it up and sweep it out. But even when you don't use those methods, you're still witnessing the same stuff come out. So, I mean, if somebody's asking themselves like, you know, wow, she's got a flat waist, you know, if all of this stuff is coming out of her, then what's inside me? You know, like what's going on in here? If all of that was in there, what's happening? So it's really a revelation for sure. Yeah.
It is. It really is. And I'm glad I did this test because I've been obsessing about all this over the years, and I've kind of stepped away the past year or two as far as I feel like I kind of figured out what is working very well for me.
Mm.
So I kind of stepped away. I still watch a lot of testimonies, a lot of like, you know, a lot of long juice fast podcasts, and you know, a lot of people talking about their journeys and stuff. But I was noticing that the psyllium husk and the clay was a big thing, and I would see some people document it, and you would see a lot of the clay and husk in it.
Mm.
So that's where I wanted to test it myself, because you know, like you said, they are binders. The husk and clay is getting the plaque out with it for
Mm.
sure. I believe that that stuff is working, but I wanted to really see, you know, what is plaque and really what isn't. And man, yeah,
Yeah.
that was eye opening, and I'm glad that I documented it too. For at any point in my life, like I have some friends too that have been asking me for years, you know, well, did you take pictures? And because you know, a few years ago, I let out a bunch of
Mm.
stones. I don't know if it was gallstones or kidney stones, but it was like
Wow.
a bunch of them in one bowel movement, and that was just. I was just doing like a bunch of like I was doing like 2 or 3 days on juice, and then I'd eat like one raw meal, and then back on 2 to 3 days juice, and
Mm.
that's where I had a bowel movement like that. But having all these things, you know, it's I think it's important for us. Another thing, if you don't mind, I'd like
Mm.
to touch on as well that you brought up that I really like that you talked about was the whole like 90-day test. I
Mm.
did a lot of that, a lot of trial and error with like plant-based foods, you know. Once you clean out the body more and you do a lot more fasting, I was doing a lot of that with like the cooked
Mm.
mushrooms and the cashews and stuff like that. And I was starting to notice that like as long as I was still eating, 10 to 15 days of the month, I could handle the nuts if they were blended in a dressing. The mushrooms, I've, at this point, unless it's like a tincture or something, I've kind of stayed away from entirely, because I'm starting to kind of I'm starting to come to the belief that, like, if it's not raw and you don't like it raw, you might not actually like
Mm,
it. And
mm,
I personally didn't really like the mushrooms when they weren't cooked, like with seasoning and, stuff like that. And, you know, if I could choose, I would like it to be like with a little bit of oil and stuff too, to where it was like, I want to make it very clear too that, like, I'm so grateful for the cooked mushrooms, the
mm.
lion's mane, the oyster, the king trumpet. They got me off the animals
Okay.
so smoothly. Like the flavor and what you can do with them when you start messing around with
Mm,
them, like it was so easy to get off the animals when you could eat that. And I ate that every day for like a year and a half straight,
mm,
maybe not every day, but like eating the cooked Sebi diet every day for that year and a half. And that was, like, for me personally, for where I was at,
mm.
perfect transition to get off the animals, off the animal products,
Yeah.
and to just be like okay, and to still be like, of course I was having lots of salt and stuff with it.
Mm.
um I feel like everyone will have their own way of doing it, but I do try to preach that to some of my friends too when they're trying to face their attachments a little bit, to be like, hey, the mushrooms, they're great, especially if you're on the standard American diet still and stuff. I do believe they are
For, su-
great.
for sure. There's so many levels, to like ease us away from, the state of, I guess, like complacency that we've gotten with our consumption, and it is a very, like, I was very complacent. I wouldn't say comfortable. I was complacent. I was just kind of, just satisfied to remain where I was. And I
Uh-huh.
never, say again?
I was just saying, yeah. I wasn't, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
responding.
yeah. I mean, there was no, like, there was no compunction, there was no pull until, I had to make a change. Like, I knew things could not remain the way that they were.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really moved me along when it came to, animal flesh, like in general, 'cause, being raised, in a very meat-centric diet or carnivore diet,
Yeah.
just eating animals, was the documentaries that I watched. So the documentaries I watched, that kind of drew a line in the sand for me. And I noticed that when you speak about animals, you mentioned, Stephen, you don't say meat. I haven't really heard you say the word meat, but you say animals. So I'm actually curious, how do you view animals now versus, back before you became plant-based? Like, how do you view the animals now? Because some people, they make that switch for their health reasons. They want to feel more healthy, or they want to have more longevity. They want to live longer, or they think this or think that. But
Hmm.
then some people do it for the animals. So I would love to hear your observations. Yeah.
That's a great question. So I started it for health.
Okay.
To be clear, I started it just because I wanted to try something different, and I had no anticipation on going where I am now. I just started to feel so good. It was just like, and like I said, with the mushrooms and stuff, it was just like I was so content. It was just like, and I was feeling so much better, looking so much better. It was just, my eyes have started to get so much more bluer over the years and stuff. It got to the point where it was just like I couldn't come up with a reasonable way to go back. And as well, at that time, I was just starting to get into the psychedelics, the mushrooms and the LSD and things like that. And I feel like they were giving me so many answers. I was getting so many downloads from them, as far as just like I was able to just follow my intuition. So I started it for my health, but to give a little bit of background, my dad works for a slaughterhouse. He still does, um, and a lot of times we were getting stuff that was just slaughtered like that day or the day prior and stuff like that. So I was able to have a little bit of a different experience, as far as I ate a lot of fast food and I ate a lot of the fresh, animals and stuff. And but it did get to a point, to wrap up all that and not get at all these side tangents. I now at this point, after about the first 6 months or year,
Mm,
with like some of the downloads with the psychedelics and just starting to be more open with my heart, now I'm very empathetic for them. And I, over the years, I kind of got to this point where I never wanted to go back to them, and obviously to this day I still don't. So
mm,
I was kind of obsessing on watching all these people who were, the 6 year vegan who went back to carnivore, and
mm.
trying to just like seeing what I think maybe they could have done better to make sure that I can do that to stay on this path. But yeah, I became very empathetic to them. I was in a pretty dark place before I started all this, as far as just how I express myself and just my view of the world and stuff. But now I'm at this point where like I don't see any difference in an animal than
Right.
myself. I also still don't really see much of a difference in a dog and a cat and a cow and a pig and all these. I do believe they're all sentient and important,
Mm,
and I do believe they should live, their life to the
yeah.
fullest. And I feel like we got to this point in life where like we can look so deep into nutrition and see that there's not a single thing we can't get from plants. And with the abundance of produce we have in this world now, I just feel like we actually have a choice now. Maybe back in the day, and like when we were in survival states and stuff and we didn't have grocery stores, we didn't really have that choice, I guess. And then where it's like a little more valid to go and hunt an animal and do all that. But I mean, I can get onto all that for forever, as far as when you really start to be honest with yourself and you start to look at human biology and stuff. It's just like we aren't carnivores, clearly, and it's just also you know, just the whole process. It's so messed up what's going on, and yeah, I've become very like empathetic towards them now, and I try to very gently open other people up to that as well. Just because I hate to see the world we're in, where people are so, we're so split up. A lot of people won't talk to each other because one person's a diehard vegan, the other one's a diehard carnivore, and it's like I don't like that anymore. I don't like that it's like that. I want us to all be at one together, and a lot of us aren't that because of little things like that, whether it's Trump or Biden or carnivore vegan. It's like all these things, we're just so separated. Um,
Yeah. Thank you for that message. Thank you for that message on, unity consciousness, come unity instead of, the separation, the coming together, and that, we're better together. Where, it's interesting too, because like you said, our biology, when you look at it logically, I mean, our canines are different, our dentures are different, our digestion is different. You walk like 25 feet, you walk out 25 feet and turn around, that's your small and large intestine right there. I mean, that's pretty long,
yeah,
like
yeah,
that can hold on to a lot of stuff. I mean, 25 feet, that's inside of us, wrapped, like spaghetti, like wrapped around. And, that's another argument as well, because people talk about, oh, I did a colonoscopy and I didn't see all that stuff. And, where is all of that stuff? But they're not really going all the way into, the small intestine. Like that's the large intestine. That's like the colon. They're not really getting all the way up in there to where all of the stuff really hides. And,
right,
when it comes out, yeah, of course it's in the shape of your colon when it comes out, because it had to go through it to get to it, to come out. So,
exactly.
when you're talking about, being, growing up in a slaughterhouse, I can only imagine, I can only imagine what that was like for you, and just to have that, in your family, and to know what that's like, and now to have such empathy and such compassion for the animals. I commend you, brother. I commend you.
Thank you. It took me, being on my own and like, moving away. My all my family still lives across the country in Maryland. I'm here in California, so I feel like for me, really, me being separated from all of that has helped me kind of figure out myself more, because it's two different worlds here. Maryland and being in the mountains in California, it's two different worlds, and one world isn't better than the other, but it got to a point where I did notice that I started to change so much being in a different environment, being around a different group of people and stuff like that. And yeah, it was a big shift. And luckily, I still have a great relationship with my dad and stuff. I don't like try to separate from the their view of life and my view of life. One thing I try to talk about is like our view and our knowledge on things is really only as far as like what we're willing to try. So like a lot of the stuff with the plant-based lifestyle, like most people that have never tried it, they have no idea what they're missing out on. So there's also that whole thing where like they don't understand the things you're saying. They don't understand the way you're feeling. They might see the difference in you. They might notice all the good things, but like it does get to a point where like they don't fully understand if they don't want to try it or they aren't going to try it. So there has to be some level of just like accepting people where they're at.
Absolutely. There's an acronym for love, and I put this in one of my books, The 48 Laws of Prana. And love is an acronym that stands for letting others voluntarily evolve, you know?
Wow.
Like, like that's love,
It is.
like
It really is.
letting someone, have their own experience, be on their own path, be on their own journey, and, whether or not they, change their awareness or whether or not they, expand into something different or have a different experience is up to them. It's not really up to us. So that's another level of maturity that you have to, to let somebody else be on their own, to live and let live,
Hmm.
you know, to live and let live. So that's one of the greatest things that we can give is to live and let live. One of my friends said, he said, what did he say? He said, Jerome, the only way that we can be free is for you to be you and for me to be me. You know, that's how we be free.
So true.
So there's a question that they had for you, Stephen. We have a question from Yugi. Papa
Sure.
Yugi said, once you clear out the parasites and mucus plaque, should one continue fasting, or what would be the best diet to be on afterwards?
Do you want to speak on it or you want
Yeah,
me to speak on it?
go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Um, well, I guess I'll have to say this is my opinion based off of, like I said, there were years of me obsessing over this. I do believe, and I think it's common knowledge at this point, there's still parasites in fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. But I do believe that, and I still believe that even after what I'm doing, I do believe I could potentially still have some parasites. I've been going pretty hard on the ginger and lemon and like serrano peppers and stuff, and I'm at war with these guys for sure. But like, um, I haven't done much dry fasting yet, but I think I'm coming up to one soon. And I personally believe if anyone in the comments or you, Jerome, is familiar with like fasting with Trevor and people like that who have done these long dry fasts, I feel like they have a little bit of a deeper understanding of the bacteria and the parasites. And I don't believe like I don't get me wrong, I think a lot of this plaque that I've let out, which has been a lot of it, I believe that has been a lot of their food, a lot of the places they've been breeding, and I do believe I have created a place in my body right now where if they are alive, they are not happy and they are on their way out, but it's so tough because like I don't like to recommend dry fasting to anybody really, just because it's like I feel like most people should wait a very long time. I spent a very long time drinking like a gallon and a half of water every day and then eating a very hydrating diet when I was eating. And when I started the juice fast, I was only drinking like a quart or two a day for the first month, which I would have changed going back now. I would have drank it a little bit more just to get the body flushing and flushing. But to not make this such a long answer, I think it takes a very, very long time to get out the parasites. And depending on what we're looking to eat um, after cleanses, I don't know how important it is to get out all these parasites and the bacteria. Because if we're gonna eat a diet that has a lot of that, we're kind of just letting it all back in, you know. But I do believe potentially like a long dry fast after a long juice fast or a lot of hydration would really be the only way to kind of kill most of them. That's my personal opinion. I don't really know because, you know, I'm not inside of my body. But I will say that it does seem like right now, more than ever, I am definitely the one in control. You know, like I do think these parasites do have a consciousness and they kind of merge with us when we have them for a long period of time. So I do believe it gets to a point where like it's not just our thoughts and it's not just our cravings, and you can get to the point where you're back in control. But I also do believe that let's say for example I have a parasite I've had for 20 years, you know, like I believe they've gotten pretty strong just like I have, you know. So I do believe I have to do a very like deep level protocol to kill these. And once again, it for me now I'm at the point where like if you know to answer the other part of that question, what to eat, I would recommend like a high water content raw diet if you do want to eat food. And then as far as the other stuff, I would say a lot of the smoothies and juices and yogurts and stuff like that. That would be the best diet that I would say to stay in control and to have the good bacteria and to maybe have the good parasites. I still don't know, you know, it does seem to be that, you know, there are going to be parasites regardless, and maybe some of them can be good. You know, we probably are always going to have a lot of microorganisms in the body, but I would love to hear you speak on that more because I feel like you would have a better answer for that. I'm still kind of learning a lot of that
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm still learning as well, brother. You know, I'm a student. I'm a student of life. I'm a student of
Me too.
my body. I'm a student of this, you know, this knowledge and awareness because just like you mentioned with fasting with Trevor, we've had him on a couple of times. We've done a couple interviews together with Trevor. And yeah, I mean, you know, like I love what you said, Stephen, about the parasite growing up with you. Like as you've gotten stronger, it's gotten stronger. And of course, there's an argument to be said. There's always the debate of, you know, we need certain parasites. We should probably be thankful for certain parasites if we have certain elements in our body that need to be eliminated, and you know they're there to take care of them, you know, even though they kind of can tap into the nervous system and trigger, tell us what to eat and go gravitate towards, you know, without them it might even be a worse an even worse situation if we didn't have them to munch on the dead, you know, the dead flesh or the dead matter that's just staying and decaying. Like imagine if it was just staying and decaying and there was nothing to, you know, like to feed on it. We create the breeding grounds, but I mean, you know, when the body is totally alkaline, like you're saying, there's nothing for them to hold on to. When it's acidic, they're chilling. They're chilling. They got they're propped up. They got the legs propped up. They're changing the TV channel.
Hmm.
They're like, what's on? You know, what's
Yeah.
new? Hold on, is this Netflix? Is this Hulu? Right? The parasites, they're watching Hulu, they're watching HBO, you
Yeah.
know? So they gotta go. They gotta go. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I do believe they kind of do become us in the same way. If we're very comfortable, you know, they're probably very comfortable too, you know, and I do believe that over time, this lifestyle becomes very comfortable. Like most of the time, I'm pretty comfortable now. I'm not gonna lie. I'll have a few times where like I'm a little fatigued for like an hour or two, or maybe even want to take like an hour nap or something like once a week or something like that. But for the most part, my energy levels, my mental clarity, you know, I could still move around multiple miles a day and sweat every day and stuff. It for anyone who hasn't done any of this, any sort of juice fast, I recommend if you feel the calling to try it and to see what the body is capable of because I did not expect to feel this way and to be able to move the way I've moved. I mean, don't get me wrong, like I said, it's not every day, all day. There are many days where it is that, but it's a process. And to touch on what you said a little bit, Jerome, as far as like a lot of these parasites, they're laid back, they're watching HBO and stuff, you know, this whole lifestyle, I think it really, as far as like, how do we get out the parasites? How do we keep them gone? What diet to eat? It really, I feel like our goals as far as what we want to eat moving forward, like for life and things like that, would be a better thing to ask. And then there's, I feel like there's a different answer to those questions depending on what life you want to live, you know, because like you said, I do completely agree that maybe these parasites, if we do have a lot of like body fat and stuff, that maybe they could be helping us in some way. They could be eating some of it, and they could be kind of helping us in some ways. I do think maybe they could be doing more damage than good, just like how the food can. But yeah, it's such a hard thing to answer. I feel like feel like you have to talk to that person specifically more as far as what they've been eating the past few years, what they want to continue eating, and then from there have some sort of like protocol as far as like what to eat, you know, and things like
Yeah.
that.
And it's totally like, what you're saying is totally real because there's a feeling of autonomy, there's a feeling of power, there's a feeling of sovereignty. And even dare I say victory. When you can walk by something in a grocery store that for years you could not walk by. Like when there are no strings attached, like Pinocchio, right? I got no strings on me, right? When there are
Yeah.
no strings attached, when you used to gravitate towards this item, this particular food item on the shelf, or this particular cereal, or these particular potato chips, or this particular Slim Jim, or these particular whatever your addiction was, whatever your affliction was, when you can walk past that in the store like it's nothing, whew,
Oh, dude, it's such a good feeling.
that's sovereignty right there. Like that's like victory.
Freedom.
Victory. You know,
Yeah.
for me, it was sushi, it was wings, it was like all of those things. Like
Yeah.
I had to go, I was making a beeline to that item in the store, and the day it was like no longer in my awareness, like I don't even see it, like it doesn't exist. I mean, you can't put a price on that, like the shackles that had you down for so long, they're broken, you're unchained, you're unleashed. There's nothing holding you down. You're untethered. It's amazing that feeling. No one can, like, I can't give somebody that feeling of no longer, you think like this is you. You've identified. It was part of my identity,
Me too.
like I tell people, they used to put me on the wall of flame for eating the spiciest things, the spiciest way, like eating stuff that would make grown men cry. I've actually seen grown men cry eating, like, just taking a dab of the sauce of stuff that I was putting in my body on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
I've seen grown men cry, you know, just taking a sample of what I was eating. That was my tolerance level. That was my top. Now walking by it like it's nothing. Come on, come on. It's like I can't give that feeling away. So they say that nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. You ever heard that?
I have, and it's so true. And it gets to the point with the fasting. It's like I'm so glad I did all this fasting prior to this because it would just get to the point that a lot of times when you're on day 5, day 8, or like when I did that one a few years ago when I got to 24 days, like your level of consciousness and awareness just goes up. The way you view things. One thing that I was starting to realize about like around day 50 of this fast is like my view on life has just it's already changed so much over the years, but now it's almost like if you have a camera, right, and you have a lens that you're used to, and then you put on like a fisheye lens, and then you see all these different angles, you see all these things that you couldn't really see before. Um, for me, it's been a whole other level for that as far as when I'm on this juice fast because I've never given my body this much of a break before. I've never been in this much control and had this much victory, like you're talking about. And I'm so grateful that for me, I was very disciplined in 2023 and 2024, and then just kept refining my diet more and more to where I was starting to become in control more, and I started to really see, how much I wanted to eat without the oils and the salts and eating it all raw and stuff. And it was like, it is total victory. And it is like, it gets to a point where like you experience it so much. And for me, I love that trial and error where you go back and forth, and I would only stay on the plant-based side where I would just go to fasting and then go back to plant-based eating and stuff. But that back and forth where you're like, you're just up there, and then the food brings you down a little bit more, and then you just keep tapping into that and just like seeing what you're missing out on. I feel like, in my opinion, every time that I would go back to the food, it was just like, I feel like there was a side of myself that I just kept running away from every time I was doing that, like.
Yeah. Almost like yeah, I felt like I was betraying myself at times. Like, I
Exactly.
really did like hug my body. I spent a lot of time with my body, oddly enough. Like it sounds kind of esoteric. It sounds weird, but I actually was talking to my own body, like forgive me, for all this time, like, and I felt like my body responded, like it actually heard me. It knew, and it forgave me. It was like, it's okay, like we got you. I got you. I'm here. And
Hmm.
and I just felt like, wow, you've had my back this whole time. You've kept me alive this whole time against all odds,
Yeah.
against, just out of my ignorance, my negligence, just my not knowing, not understanding. You still were there. You've always been here since day one.
Yeah.
Since day one. You've
Hmm.
been with me this whole time. So man, brother, this has been awesome. This has been amazing, man.
It has.
Thank you for this consciousness. Like, thank you for just your testimony. Thank you for these teachings. And it's reaching for real. Like, we need this. This is the time when we need it the most. And congrats on like 60 plus days on juice. You said you're going 107 days. Would love to stay updated on your progress. And
Yeah.
wow, brother, it's amazing because if anybody is wondering like more about you and this is their first time seeing you,
Yeah.
Stephen, and they'd like to get in touch with you or in tune with you a little bit more, did you have any place for anybody to kind of get a little bit more of you or any services or any offerings, anything like that at the moment?
So, um, no services or offerings at the moment, but for Instagram, uh, feel free. Anyone on here, they want to follow me, ask me questions, more than happy to. I would love to engage with people like this more because being in the mountains and being away from a lot of these people, I love talking to people who are just wanting to change and wanting to be a better version of themselves. And um, I do want to make a YouTube channel here soon, but nothing in the works right now. That being said, Jerome, thank you for allowing me on your platform with your audience. I would love to do this again
Let's do
sometime,
it again.
because this has been awesome. And yeah, anyone wants to reach out on my Instagram and message me if they want to see the pictures I have. I have a lot of them that I have all documented by the day and everything, a lot of videos. Be prepared. It's not a pretty sight, but if anyone is interested in what it looks like without the clay and the husk and everything, it's eye-opening, a lot of the biofilm and stuff. But I want to once again, Jerome, say thank you, because like being on your you allowing me on your platform, nothing about me, who knows what I'm gonna say, I was just some stranger to you, so very grateful for that. I wanted to share my journey, and hopefully I helped some people in the comments. And if we do this again, hopefully we can help some more people, because it's just about waking all of us up one day at a time.
Absolutely. We'll do it again. We'll do a round two. We only scratched the surface. We'll definitely
Totally.
have a round two for sure. For sure.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
Take care, brother. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You as well.
Enjoy the.
All right. All right. Bye.
Much love. Much love, everyone.